I remember the name. Jas Takhar, best in the game. Mamba mentality in his own lane, so better pay attention to what he be saying. Get the message, ain't no question. Giving advice for any investment. Welcome to the broadcast, the Jas Takhar Podcast.
All right, we're live, Nikki, and I'm very excited for this episode as it's episode, the team just told me, 222. Lucky number, probably why I'm doing a special type of podcast episode today for my friends who are watching on YouTube right now. You'll see that the set here in the studio's set up a little differently because we're going to do a special Q&A, something I like to do maybe once a year. I try to get to it maybe twice a year, but we never really get around to doing it a couple of times a year, which is taking all the questions that I get through emails, through all my live keynote talks, through social media, phone calls, all of that. Sometimes I can answer all the questions, but there's so many questions that I never get around to. But I've learned over my 29 years, coming up to 30 years in this business, that when one person asks a question, it's usually reflective of like 25 to 30% of people in that industry that are going to get value from a question as well. But sometimes people are just scared to ask. And so I thought, why not do a Q&A? I have my boy, Nicky B,
What's going on,
helping
guys?
me out. What's going on?
Not too much,
Let
man.
them hear that sexy, deep podcast voice.
You guys are in for a special treat because my allergies are kicking in, so it's even deeper and a little more
What's
raspy.
kicking in? What did you
My
say?
allergies are kicking in, so it's a little raspier and a little
actually
deeper
even
than
more
normal.
raspy. You're almost starting to sound like Elto. What I was gonna say is that, you know, the joke, right? Which is you have a face for audio. I don't want to say that you have a face for audio. It's not what I'm trying to say, but it kind of plays out like that, Nikki, because they can't see you right now. But really, for our friends and our listeners that are taking their dog for a walk right now, they're on the treadmill, they're driving their car. At any opportunity that I can remember, I want to thank you because you've been on this journey with me for the Jas Takhar Podcast now for coming up to 4 years, like 222 episodes. Like, that's like, if I can give myself a little bit of a pat on the back and
Definitely.
say, Jas, great job with the consistency. Obviously, none of this would have been able to be, get done without the crew. You, Nikki, Yas, Steven, Alex, Way, the list goes on and on. But I want to jump into all the questions that you've compiled. I don't know how many you have set up. I promise to everybody who's watching and listening right now, I have no clue. I have not seen any of these questions. And if anybody who does know me and has actually hosted me on a podcast of their own, when you send me the questions, my team will say, do not send Jas the questions ahead of time, because I think it's best that you get my most raw answer. Like today, we're sitting right now, August 2023, and my answers are going to be based on some of the experience and just based on what I'm going through. But if we do this Q&A, and maybe we'll try, Nikki, to do this Q&A August 2024, and we'll maybe throw in some of the same questions just to see if my thought process has changed on things, right?
Definitely.
But Nikki, really, really quickly, how long have you been with me now, man?
It'll be 3 years in October.
Wow, it really does seem like you've been with us longer than that.
Feels like it.
And so it's been a cool ride, man. So
Yeah,
you probably
from,
came in when we were like episode 100 or something.
Yeah, episode 100, yellow background.
Yes, different studio. Yeah.
Different everything.
I love it.
And it's really cool to see like we're in our own dedicated studio space today, 3 years later.
Which is awesome. Your Instagram handle, really quickly.
It is at Nick Biscuit, BISCUIT, like the cookies.
And you do a lot of like photography content around there? Or?
A little bit of everything: photography, videography, a little bit of behind the scenes of what I do, and then obviously I'm trying to get better at the educational content.
I love it, buddy. Well, you're helping a lot when it comes to the actual academy, which is from the ground up, Fitigu for short, Academy, which is a training company for realtors. I mean, you head up essentially all the content that's going out on that profile. You're obviously helping me do my content on Jas Takhar's profiles, and then obviously that other raspy voice we mentioned, Laura Elto Stewart. Make sure to go check out her podcast, which is also found on YouTube and any podcast platforms. It's called The Laura Show. Let's jump into it, brother. Go.
Yeah, so we got about just shy of 20 questions for you.
Oh, wow.
So we're just going
Isn't there
to...
something like 21 questions or something?
50 Cent song?
Yeah.
Great song, great album.
50 Cent. Oh, yeah, great album.
Great
actually.
album.
I love that
That was
album.
my like soundtrack from when I was 13.
That was Get Rich or Die Trying, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
With the bulletproof vest and the shattered... Oh, great. Classic.
Well,
Classic.
I mean, he just blew up. Big shout out to 50 Cent.
One of the biggest entrepreneurs of our time, too.
100%. Vitamin water took it to, what did he take it to?
A billion.
Was it a billion?
It was a billion.
Oh,
when he
wow. I
sold.
thought he sold that for a couple of $100 million.
He might have walked away with something like that, but it was like it
He
was
sold it
upwards.
to Coke, not Pepsi. I think
Coke,
it was.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
Anyway, time to talk about this entrepreneur in front of
Let's
us.
go.
So first question is, Jas, you've had an impressive journey in real estate. Could you share a defining moment that led you to pursue a career in this industry?
So for me, I've always been in sales since the age of 12, like formally getting paid through a newspaper route. But then I didn't go into any other industry, right? Like I stayed within sales. I worked in retail, but even in the retail segment of Sporting Life at Sherway Gardens in Etobicoke for our GTA people, I was in the footwear department. Like I didn't want to work anywhere
Shout out
else.
to the footwear salesman. I'm one too.
Year 1, 2. Where was it? Champs?
Sport Check.
Sports Check. That's it. I at 15, 16, I jumped into the shoe sales, then went into banking in the sales and service. Then I did car sales. And then once I was in car sales, Nikki, it was about 2.5 years in, I started to get this pit in my stomach. And it happened in the banking industry. It happened when I was selling shoes. And I also, like, even as a 12, 13-year-old selling newspapers, I knew there was something more. I was like, I want a new challenge now, right? And so that's when I actually sold it's funny, whatever your brain thinks about, it will bring about. I started to think of, okay, I need a new challenge. Within a 30-day period, brother, I sold 4 cars to real estate agents. Like, I don't really even talk about this much, right? It was really cool because I think that's actually what the pivotal moment was. I usually say, I usually mention when somebody asks me a question, like how I got into real estate because I wanted to invest, which is true. But it was the fact that at that time when I'm having this pit, in that pit, everybody knows it. You're driving, you're taking the bus, you're at home, you're in the shower, you're like, something doesn't feel right. Like, I'm happy, but it just doesn't feel right. That is happening for, maybe a 30-day period. 30 days later, sell 4 cars to real estate agents. I'm talking to them. I'm letting them know, I might want a new challenge. They're like, Jas, I think you'll be really good at real estate. Like, you're obviously very good looking. And then, so you should put your picture on a business card. But you have a little bit of charisma, and, the service you provided us was fantastic. Real estate is going to be a little different challenge for you because at that time I'm 22 or something. I think I ended up getting licensed when I was 23. And so at the same time as I'm selling them cars, I also see their credit application. So I see their income and I'm like, holy shit. And 2 of them, all 4 people, amazing people, but 2 of them, English was like their 3rd language. And I'm like, whoa, okay, maybe I can't spell a lot of things, but I can speak the language. It's my first language, actually. If they can do it, I think I can do really well. And so the pivotal moment was when in car sales, selling cars to those real estate agents, feeling like, okay, I think I might be able to do this. Jumped in, got my license. I fast tracked. They give you about 1.5 years to make a long story longer. I took about an 8-month period to do it. I took vacation while I was in car sales, did my licensing, which is obviously tough because I had to go back. Funny enough, I'm 23 at that time. I had to go back to grade 9 math. And for me, that shit was hard too. And grade 9 English and all these the parallelograms and all that kind of stuff. And so big shout out. I got to give a shout out to my wifey. Sony really, really tutored me through that. I'm not ashamed to say it. I remember spending some time in Tim Hortons with her. We weren't married at that time. We were dating. And she really helped me through all that. But I fast tracked, got my license, and I didn't do this part-time, man. I went straight full-time. It was a very tough decision because the owner in the car business mentored me like a son. He was at my wedding. He had a tear running down his face at my wedding because I mentioned him in the speech. And so it was very tough to now have to go fly out on my own, but he was very supportive, still is till this day, like his whole family. And that's it, man. Just jumped into real estate. And so I think for value for people who are listening right now, you might be thinking, it's going to be tough to make a change, or I don't have the resources, right? Like I don't have the resources to get into a new business, or I'm very scared. I have a lot of insecurities. Everyone was scared until they actually did it. The resources in terms of the people, the time, the money will always show up. You just need to have faith. And I think the best way I can give you an analogy, especially for my friends who drive, especially if you drive in the GTA, but wherever you're listening, when you're on the highway, you have those white lines that separate you and everyone else. That is essentially called blind faith. So you have it already in parts of your life. Because when you're driving, especially on the highway, you are just basing everything on the fact that nobody crosses over and hits you, which does happen. But you have the faith when you drive on that highway that those white lines are going to keep everyone in order. So if you're wanting to make a jump in your career, in your business, in your life, you have to just jump and be okay with failure, because failure doesn't set you back. That's a mindset thing. Failure can actually propel you forward. Hence the term fail forward. Nikki?
It's a great answer. I think a lot of people resonate with that too. Just in terms of, I know even my own entrepreneurial journey is very similar, different circumstances, but no, that resonates. I think that will resonate with a lot of people, definitely. So great. We got another question here. As someone who emphasizes personal growth, what daily habits or routines have played a pivotal role in your success as an entrepreneur and real estate expert?
Yeah, I don't know if it's something that's necessarily like from a real estate expert perspective. I think it's the daily habit has always been the same since day one, like that I can remember. So that might be going back to like 6-7 years old, is the habit of gratitude. I wake up every single morning, and as long as no one in my life passed away, I'm happy, period. I know it's very basic, but I've gotten 2 phone calls in my life that changed the course of my life. And those 2 phone calls at the age of one, the first one is at the age of 17. It was my best friend. It was first thing in the morning, like 8 o'clock in the morning, and we were 17 years old. So obviously at that time, like somebody calling you and a friend calling you at that time, it's odd because like we were drinking the night before. But he went into a car where somebody was drinking and driving, and he passed away. And it was like my best friend. And then at the age of 37, my mentor, my business partner, my older brother, not blood brother, but like my third older brother, I got a phone call, and he also passed away very tragically. And so easily after that first phone call when I was 17 years old, when you don't get that call, everything else, yeah, it's challenging. Yeah, there's obstacles, but no one passed away. And now I have 2 kids, a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old at the time of this recording. I've had my car stolen from me multiple times for some reason in the last
year alone.
Right, Nikki? And half the time, like half my staff didn't even know about it because everybody was safe. Everybody was good. That's all I want. After that, I can start to build on and take on the day. And so the habit I want everyone to pick up on is gratitude. And you might be driving right now. You might be watching this at home on your 60-inch screen and thinking, Jas, fuck, I have really nothing to be grateful for. And that's okay. Because the truth of the matter is, you just need to remind yourself, if you're watching this, especially on a 60-inch screen or your iPhone, you have a lot to be grateful for. Because just the act of you able to listen to this and watch this, you are ahead of 70% of the population, right? Because maybe I shouldn't say 70%, but let's actually do some quick math. There is approximately 1 billion people on this planet out of the 8 billion that we're hitting that don't have access to running water.
Let alone internet,
right? Let alone Chick-fil-A downstairs. Let alone in the studio here we have, I don't know, how many water bottles do we have sitting here? Like 57 of them.
Like that, yeah.
You know what I mean? And access to running water. So I know you're not at a point necessarily in your life or in your business that you're in complete happiness, and I get that. But when you start to feel grateful, you cannot feel the emotion of fearful at the same time. Try it. Try it for yourself. Scientifically, physiologically, you cannot be grateful and fearful at the same time. The chemical in the brain can't handle both. So when you're in gratefulness, what happens, it starts to send a signal chemically to the brain to look for and find more reasons to be grateful. There's a reason happy people are happier on a regular basis. There's a reason that the rich get richer, because they have a mindset of the fact that I will attract the feelings and the emotions that I want to attract. Now, unfortunately, what a lot of people do, I think, Nikki, is they put out the feelings, the emotions, and the thoughts of things they don't want. See, again, unfortunately, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, the higher being, doesn't know the difference between that vibration of positive or negative. It just gives you more of the vibration. So whatever frequency you're on, it's like a radio station, 98.7 FM. It's the same thing. Whatever frequency you put yourself on, for example, a positive frequency, it's going to give you more of that. But if you're on a negative frequency, it's going to give you more of that. So the easiest way to attract more of what you actually want is start the day with gratefulness. And if you can breathe, there's some people who probably passed away today in the morning somewhere in the world, right? Older, younger, shit is happening at the time of this recording. There's a war happening somewhere, you know? And so if you're not getting bombed right now, what the fuck you complaining about? That somebody didn't buy from you? That you don't have enough money in your account? I understand. You want more, but you have to start with gratefulness. So the act has always been grateful for me. You know me now for 3 years. Jas is behind the camera. He's known me for coming up to 3 years as well, around that time, 2.5 years, Jas. And so they know. Like, that doesn't mean sometimes I'm not thrown off by things, but 98% of the time, it's not that big of a deal. Like, if this video doesn't get all the views that I wanted, or this podcast didn't get all the listens and the downloads I wanted, I'm not sitting at home and crying about it. We just get up and try it again, and we do it again, and we do it again.
I couldn't agree more with that. You know, someone who grew up with two blind parents, I am like that gratefulness is everything, man. Like, referring back to my father, it's like, you know, he's half deaf and blind. Like, he has every excuse to not be grateful.
How crazy is
But this guy wakes up every day with a positive attitude, a smile on his face, ready to just go about his day.
I met your dad not too long ago, like maybe about a month ago. You brought him into the office. Yeah. You would never know that you said half
deaf and blind.
Half deaf and fully blind. Yes, blind, that I knew. But you wouldn't know it for a second. The guy was
chest
like
up, head high.
100%, smiling ear to ear. And so think about that. Like, if that's why I said, if you can watch this and listen to this, how fucking cool
like,
is that?
He can half listen to this and not even watch it. You know what I mean? And it's
he can listen to half of it, I guess.
Yeah,
like, you can kind of get it, right? Yeah. Okay, go.
So, yeah, no, it's gratefulness is everything. I couldn't agree more. All right. So many aspiring entrepreneurs struggle with finding the right balance between work and personal life. How do you manage your time effectively, especially in a demanding industry like real estate?
Yeah, real estate is very demanding, right? Because most people want to see homes or like put in offers on their off time, right? So most of the population obviously works 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, and then they want to see homes from 5 to 9, which unfortunately at times as a real estate agent is tough. And so, look, I've been in this business now for coming up to 2 decades. Like I think in the next couple of months, I'm 20 years in this business. It's always a challenge. I've never, in all honesty, hit balance. I guess balance would mean 50-50 of work.
Theoretically,
yeah, theoretically, right? And so I can tell you, never have hit that. And so what I've been okay with and what I train other agents on, and I'm going to give you guys an actual tactic, but from a mindset perspective, first, because this whole game of entrepreneurship, being a real estate agent, being a videographer, like doing all these things, 80% of it is mindset, guys. 20% is the tactical stuff, but people got it twisted. They focus on 80% of the tactical stuff and then only 20% of the mindset. So the mindset around this is that be comfortable with not being in a balance and don't judge yourself so much. And what I mean by that is that understand that at times you are going to be, take a 7-day work week, for example, 90% of that time might be on your business, right? And I understand you have a spouse, you have a partner, you have kids maybe, you have parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, friends, where they might only get 10% of your time that week. Okay? And so be okay with, though, on the flip side, when you're away, try to turn it all off and give 90% to those people in your life, right? And so the tactic, though, that I want to give to everyone is what I do is it's clockwork, okay, for me. I've been probably doing this for the last 5 to 6 years, and it's been amazing. It works really well. Every Sunday, okay, is when I time block for my next week. Meaning is that I put in my big rocks in first. My big rocks, gratefulness, going back to that question that Nikki asked, is my 2 kids. So it's first, what do I need to do in the week? Because I have a role to play. I'm a father. I'm also a husband. I've decided with my wife, though, that the big rock is, okay, what do I have to do with the kids? So this past week, what are we at today? Tuesday, Wednesday? Today's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would have done this past Sunday. And I know that both my 9-year-old and 7-year-old have basketball tryouts. Separate days, separate times, okay? I also wanted to make sure that I was having dinner with them for 3 times a week. 3 times this week, okay? So I put all that into the schedule. I know that on Saturdays, I'm completely off. Client wants to do an offer or anything of that sort, I have a team. Somebody else will handle that. And if you don't have a team, really quickly, just so you know, you can partner up with someone else just in your office. Say, hey, yes, a real estate agent in my office, buddy, do me a favor. I want to always take Sundays off, or I want to take Tuesdays off. Can you handle my business on those days? What days do you want to take off? Thursdays and Saturdays? Great. I'll handle your business. Boom. Easy. Done. Okay? Don't overthink it. And so I take care of my big rocks first. Family. Once that's taken care of, the kids, my wife, okay, hey, do we have date night? Do we have, do we need to do dinners? Do we have to be, do we have other obligations? Is there birthday parties? All of that. Once that's taken care of, then for me, it's 9 to 12 every day that I'm working. So I tend to work Monday to Friday, full, pretty long days, but 9 to 12, 3 hours a day, no matter what, I'm only spending on prospecting, on lead generation. Half the time my team doesn't even see me anymore. I'm snuck away in a boardroom. I'm snuck away in a coffee shop because I just need a phone and I could do, majority of my prospecting that way. Because in business, I don't care what business you're in. This is not just for the real estate people out there, but whatever business you're in, if you're not actually generating new business, you're going to be out of business soon. Let me say that again. If you're not generating new business every single day, or trying, prospecting, that's the word, finding new business, you are going to be out of business very soon. So I highly recommend that you schedule that, and that should be the highest priority. I know you think servicing the client is the highest priority. You're going to get to that. But you're not going to have any clients to serve if you're not consistently, every single day looking for new business. And that could be making phone calls, setting up events, and or shooting content. And so that's how I kind of balance it, Nikki, is every week on a Sunday, I check my week schedule, and then I don't judge myself too hard, right? Like, look, I'm not necessarily at home for dinner every day. I leave the house and before my kids get up 5 days a week for sure, right? But then luckily now in 2023, there's technology. So after this podcast, for example, like it'll be lunch. Before I eat, I'm going to do a quick video call with my boys. You know, my father couldn't do that. Now, this works well for me and it works well for my family, right? Understand that like both my wife and I, we came from parents that were immigrants. And so when they came here, they worked their ass off. And so I'm not here to judge you if you're not doing it. I ask you not to judge me, not because it hurts me. It's because I don't want you to be judging people, because that's not being grateful again. And so for me, it works really well because I saw my father very little growing up. You know, my father was a taxi driver. And so what that really means at the working airport taxi, he literally worked for 22 hours a day for one day. And then the next day he would be off, but he would be sleeping, catching up on sleep. And then I would see him for a little bit. You know what I mean? And then the next day, and that went on for 15, 16, 17 years. And before that, he worked for taxi in the city. And that was like 7 days a week, right? My mother, factory worker, working all day. My wife's parents, very similar, father taxi driver as well. And so we're okay with that understanding that we're both playing roles, right? And you play different roles in different times in your life. It's the judgment or the feeling of guiltiness that I'm really hoping I can get across to people to have less of. Like, oh my God, when I'm working, I'm not with my kids. And then when you're with your kids, you're thinking about work. Why not just separate the two in terms of like, here's when I work, here's when I play. The magic is when you can swim in both, but to have 50% balance, I think it's a crock of shit. It's too hard if you're an entrepreneur, because unfortunately, being an entrepreneur, you have to have a sense of obsession, right? It becomes your child. Like the two kids, 9 and 7, highest priority, but my next priority is my third child, which are my businesses. And those alter, you know, sometimes you like the 9-year-old a little bit better than the 7-year-old, or you like the 7-year-old a little bit better than the 9-year-old. In my business world, I'm going through that. Like REC Canada, I've been working at it and building it really focused on I'm the guy who's bringing in the revenues. Like 80% of the revenues is because the guy that you're looking at. And so I had to do that for the last 5 years, head down. And so I feel like that child has grown now, where my third child right now is the academy. Like 98% of my time is on the growth of the academy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It sounds like one of the biggest things is when it comes to balancing your work and personal life, as long as the reward is greater than the sacrifice.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know.
And I think that's individually.
And that's why, Nikki, I say I think so, right? Like, I don't know. I'm 41, almost turning 42 in a few months, right? And look, at 87, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, but I know what's bringing me happiness. I know right now, put it this way. If I was home all day with my kids, this is again for me, okay? I wouldn't be a good father because I wouldn't be happy. Like, I wouldn't be able to, there's a part of me that wouldn't be able to breathe. Like, I need the challenge. I need this challenge of bringing more awareness through content, building the academy, sustaining what I've done with REC Canada, seeing the growth in the people around me. So if you keep me home for 10 days, like when we go, my kids and I and my wife and I go away for 7 days, day 5, I'm fucking itching. Like, I can't wait to get back to work. That doesn't mean I love my family less. It's actually those, now when I work the 5-6 days a week that I'm at work, when I come home, like I'm all in with my boys. Right. And so, it always, for me, man, I want to squeeze out people's judgment, not only of other people, but the judgment of themselves.
Good answer. Really good. So, think this kind of relays into it in terms of like balance and
Jump
stuff
around,
like
man.
that.
Feel, you do your thing.
So building a strong team is vital for growth. What qualities do you look for when assembling a team, and how do you foster a collaborative work environment?
Very challenging. I don't think you kind of it's funny. I don't know if that was the same question that you were referencing, like in terms of similarities of finding the balance. It's very, very tough because what you want, Nikki, is not necessarily what Jas wants, and what Jas wants is not necessarily what Tyler wants, and what Tyler wants is not necessarily what Steven wants, and I could go on and on. I felt there was like a two-parter there that you asked. So number one, attitude. And the attitude, I know that might be like a buzzword out there, like in terms of, obviously you want good attitude, but you know what I'm looking for when it comes to attitude is positivity and resourcefulness.
It's almost like how they react on a bad day, not so much as a good day.
Yeah, and even on a good day too, now that I think about it, Nikki, is because like if somebody's having a good day, but they're being an ass to everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, like I'm trying to remember who I got this from. I can't, okay, it just doesn't come to me, but they have a sign in their office that says no assholes allowed. I was like, maybe I'll get something along those lines. Like, I don't like assholes. I just don't like, and what an asshole to me is like you're rude, you're condescending, you're like when you're having a good day, like you want to give it to people, like in terms of like, look at me. And when you're having a bad day, on the flip side, you're allowed to have bad days around us. It's not like we run a place of all fluffiness or anything, right? But how long are you letting it last, right? And so with us, it's usually a couple of days. I think personally myself, I probably spend in bandwidth mentally in my head, like on a daily basis, without any exaggeration, 50% of my time in my brain is thinking about my crew, because I'm watching to see how they're not only handling things, but how are they doing, right? And so that for me is generally done. I make that decision, I should say, like first thing kind of in the morning, how everyone greets me and greets each other, right? Going back to that first part of the question, though, what I'm looking for is the attitude. But the second thing that I'm really looking for now of late, I probably, like it's something that's, and I'll probably start doing more content around it, is resourcefulness, right? Because there's a lot of people around, like you're 3 years with me. Jas is coming up to 3 years. Elto, VP of REC, but partner in the academy, coming up to a decade. Tai, has vested interest into the academy, massive role player in the REC business, 10 years, okay? You don't necessarily need me all the time to answer your questions. Like you shouldn't. And if you do, not all that is on you, but some of it is, for sure, in my head. It's like, come on, Nikki, like you be resourceful, man. Figure it out. You have a phone. You have the internet. You also know me, like I'm not a micromanager, right? And so being able to do things, and when I said some of it is on you, some of it is also on me, because maybe I didn't relay this message to you, right? Like to say, no, man, figure it out yourself. So something that's starting to really work well for me now is when people are asking me questions, like the team, my comeback more is, well, what do you think? And that's not because I'm trying to like get away from things. It's because I don't have all the fucking answers, right? I have to make the decision if somebody's asking me something, but I'm hoping like you make your own decision and run with it, because I don't really, you don't have the ability to bring my businesses down, right? Like I'm not, like the way that I'm built, like you really can't, like you can actually tell my clients to fuck off, but I can go back and call them and grovel and let them know that like he's no longer with me because of, whatever, because obviously you're going through something if you went that far. But the habit or the skill, it's a skill. The skill of being resourceful will pay you in spades, because I think that's lacking out there in not only the younger generation, but God, I'm like the older, like, I don't care if you're 19 listening to this or you're 91. It's like some people just never picked up on being resourceful. And so that is what I'm really looking for. The collaboration is you're getting me at a great time in my leadership career, in my business, and my like the time that I'm in right now, because I'm trying to figure that out. Like I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get my crew better in terms of collaborate. That's the dream. Like, you know, you would ask Jas or ask Steven, who's been with me for so long, where it's like there will come a point, because the brain will find what it's looking for, where I'm like maybe needed 5% of the time, right? Because everyone else did what they're supposed to do. And then there's like, I feel like right now with our crew, like there's such nice spurts of it, right? Like there's like I'm seeing it with you two. I'm watching it, right? I feel it. There's a feeling of it. Like I came in today, all I said was, guys, we're gonna do a Q&A because I think it's time. You guys do what you want to do and set it up. Like literally, for everybody who's watching or listening, I just came and sat, and the only question that Jas asked me was, do you like is the height on the mic good? And I'm like, yeah, it feels good. Let's just go on, right? And so that all happened on its own. You didn't ask me, hey, Jas, do you want the fucking light on the right side? Do you want to sit in front of your sign because you haven't? None of that, right? And so the reason I'm a big proponent of collaboration and not micromanaging is because speed can happen. I was on 4 phone calls with agents and real estate clients before I got here. I'm going to finish this, run back to the office. I have calls scheduled from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. with no breaks. No breaks. In fact, like if you're listening right now and you think I'm talking shit, I'll bring up my calendar. That's how my days are, especially Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays. And like, I don't have to worry about much, right? So the speed at which you can do things, and speed's very important in business for everybody who's watching and listening, because you're going to get results, some good ones and some bad ones. And then now you have data, and now you can adjust. That's why doing things very quickly is very important. Like on the way up here, just from a speed perspective, I thought of something new that I need to, I don't know if it's new or it's something that Jas and I did in the past. I can't remember, but we're going to kind of, I already thought of something to speed up the process on how we cut content. And I was like, oh, I got to tell Jas. Because I don't really give a shit about what the title on the video is. Like, I really don't care. The odd time in 3 years, I don't know how many clips you've done for me, Jas, maybe 500. I think like, without exaggeration, 17 times I've went back to him and said, do me a favor. I'm feeling this title. I want to test this title. You missed the mark. You're not a real estate agent. 10? Not even 17? Holy shit, okay. I thought you were going to say, no, Jas, it was like 32. 10 times. Why? Because what the hell do I know? It matters what you think as a viewer or listener, but not one viewer or listener. We never base anything on that. So long-winded answers, because it's actually my favorite thing. My favorite part of what I get to do is I love hearing 3 years, 8 years, 10 years. We don't have a lot of turnover. There's been people who have left. And majority of the time it's because they found something better for their lives. And it's like, guys, they all know who have left. Like the person that's hiring you, give them my cell number. It might be I think I can make a phone call and help you possibly get that job, right? And so that's my favorite part of the business, man. Like I love doing deals, helping people create wealth, helping agents, but actually being a part of a team, it's my. Like it's giving me goosebumps to know that like I put a crew together. It's kind of cool, man. It's really, really cool. I advise everyone to do it. You can start like I did actually. Like, cause you might be thinking, well, Jas, you have to pay all these guys. Yeah, but I pay Jas, I pay Nikki, I pay the people now, but none of these guys were with me 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago when I had interns. And the interns, what I was trying to do is I was trying to bring them value in some way. They were unpaid at the start. And then I went to paid internship. And then I went to part-timers. Then I went to full-timers. And I was like, okay, you know what? I should upgrade some of our videos. You guys tell me if Jas is an upgrade to the videos. That's obviously what you guys got to let me know. But okay, I got to pay a little bit more. Okay, let's bring on a Nikki. You don't need all of them at the start either, right? So start slowly, and you don't have to go full time. Start with people who are part-time, 3 days a week. If you're by yourself right now, imagine what can happen for not only your business, but your personal life. If you brought on somebody, call it 15 hours a week. So that's 5 hours over a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You just bought back 15 hours a week. That's 60 hours in a month. You just bought back you bought back more than a week.
Yeah.
For the average person, but call it like in business, you're probably doing 60, 70 hours yourself. So you just bought back a week every single month to do what? Whatever you want. Go get that time with your kids, your partners, your family. Start to focus on more high revenue activities to bring in more business so you can get more people. Right? And then you should only be focused on, we overthink all this shit. You should only be focused on what you enjoy and what you're good at. And I have news for you. 90% of the time, the people that I've been watching and I've studied in success, I didn't do really well in school, but I did study for a good 7-year 8 period, a lot of successful people, read all the books, went to the seminars, reached out to people, then obviously through my podcasting. What they're good at is generally what they enjoy. And what they enjoy is generally what they're good at. And that is the easiest way to make more money. Why? Because you're going to be hard to compete against because you enjoy it and you're good at it. So you're going to do it and it's never going to feel like work. And he or she, whoever brings more value to the marketplace, will always make more money. He or she, whoever brings more value to the marketplace, and value comes from doing things better, doing things quicker, entertaining people. If you do it better and you bring more value than the next person, your income will always, always increase without any doubt in my mind.
Absolutely. I think this is an interesting segue as well. So the next question is, as a podcast host yourself, what key insights have you gained from interviewing successful individuals that aspiring entrepreneurs and investors could benefit from?
I think the successful people, what they all had in common is they did it, actually taking action, like that first step, understanding that they didn't need to see the whole staircase. That's taken from Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, you don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to see the first step. Because you know this, right? You've been walking in the basement or you've been going upstairs or you're trying to find like the washroom light at night, right? And you're just making sure you're not hitting something or you're not, you don't fall down the stairs. So what do? You feel that first step. Okay, I'm on the first step. You take the next step and then the next step. That's how business is. That's how entrepreneurship is. That's how investing is. You got to take that first step. And the successful people that I've sat down with on my podcast, they all had the common thread of being scared the first time. Like one day we'll get around to it. Because at one point, in a conversation in a podcast, I probably got to that, asking them that question, and you will see all the answers kind of being the same. Yeah, I was scared, but I did it, and then I failed, but then I learned something from that failure, and then that helped me in my next venture, and the venture might be like within another investment or a completely different business, whatever it was, but they were all scared. Very few of the people, like maybe out of all the people I've spoken to, like maybe 1% of them, if even that, were given the money or given the success. They weren't, that whole thing like silver spoon and all that. None of them really were fed that. And not that there's anything wrong for anybody who was. I actually feel sorry for those people because I think it's actually tough, right? Like when you're fed a lot of money to do something with it, it's not easy. And I'm sure a lot of us know thousands of stories, but the common thread, Nikki, has always been, brother, that they just took action even when they didn't have all the resources. I'm telling you that. Like, I did not have the money to pay people at the start. I did not have the answers about, like, podcasting when we started, especially in the real estate industry. Having someone follow me around, like I remember Jas having a camera on a, what do you call that, gimbal? Like the gimbal, right? For everybody else, it's like that moving tripod. And like people in my office, like, this guy's weird. Not Jas is this. There's someone, like, he's on drugs. Why does he have somebody following him around? Like, who does he think he is? Why does he think he's so important? Why does he think people actually even care to listen to him? You know what? I felt some of that too. Like, for sure. But what I knew was, hey, I've seen someone else have a lot of success with this, a lot. Success leaves clues. I'm going to try it. I feel like this might work. At the end of the day, I just don't want to have a regret. I don't want to have the regret that I kind of knew that someone did something at a very successful like rate. Like, he really took a business and blew it up in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And I didn't want the regret that I knew it, but I didn't try it. Like you, probably watching or listening right now. You know that there might be something that if you do, you're going to have success. Or you might actually enjoy it, but you're scared to do it. And so I didn't want to be that person. And so I said, I'm going to try it. And over the 4-year period, I think I can say I was right. Like, I have met amazing people to be on the podcast. I've made more money than I could ever imagine at this time. I'm really, really ambitious. And so I want to grow bigger businesses. But it all stemmed from Jas and Nikki and Steven and others following me around with a camera, because then I was able to get the content, put it out to the world, and my vibe attracted my tribe. And my vibe is attracting my tribe. Your vibe, whatever that vibe is, will attract its tribe. And guess what? I repel a lot of people. A lot of them don't like a lot of what I have to say. That's okay. There's 8 billion people, like I said. I wasn't going to get to all of them. Right? Like, I want to affect and inspire everyone, but I know I'm not going to. But I'm going to keep trying to get to as many people as I possibly can.
All right. There's a good segue here in terms of failures and stuff like that. What was one of your biggest losses that taught you your biggest lesson?
I think by far the biggest loss that comes to my head right away is I had 4 business partners outside of my current partner right now in real estate, as well as the one that passed away. There was a group of 7 of us, and so 4 of them, though, they ripped me off, like, financially. But the lesson and the failure and the financial burden was a little over $372,000 that was left on my name personally as Jas Takhar. $372,000. But what that taught me was that it was my fault. All of it. I probably spent 2 weeks in the shower every morning not feeling grateful anymore. And having arguments in my head with them when I see them, and thinking about them, and thinking about all that negativity. And then an epiphany came in terms of just going back to the tools that I've always learned, is that I have to hold myself accountable. It was my fault, because I should have known that there was money being taken. I didn't watch it. I trusted blindly. And even though that there were people who were close to me, but I should have been more financially responsible. And that day in the shower, I made the decision that I'm no longer thinking about these guys. And then a shift happened. In fact, when I stopped thinking about them, I actually came across Gary Vee. I came across him producing content. He was the gentleman I was speaking about when it comes to success leaves clues, about content creation and then taking a business into the hundreds of millions of dollars. But I never would have seen him until I made the decision myself that it was my fault. All of it. All of it. Now I had full control. That's why it's so important to always take accountability and be proactive in that. Don't be reactive. Don't be like, oh my God, it's my team's fault. It's the market's fault. It's the president's fault. It's the prime minister's fault. It's the economy. It's your fault. The only way that you can take full control is understanding it's your fault. That's when I opened up to seeing what Gary had to say and what he was up to, took that, ran with it, and now I'm sitting here in front of you.
I think forgiveness is probably one of the most important keys to happiness in our life, and to walk around life holding animosity and anger towards people is like drinking poison and hoping it affects them.
It's the weird. And you know, I love that saying, by the way. And another one that always rings true to me is from Muhammad Ali. He said that it's like allowing people to rent free space in your mind.
And if we know anything about Jas, he's not letting anybody rent anywhere for free.
Fuck that shit. I like that. Yeah. Look, I'll try to help you for a little bit.
Yeah, come on.
Like I got expenses too, right? It's so true, bro. Like you can't be you don't have to forget,
100%.
but you need to forgive.
100%.
You don't need to forget.
Because that lesson is there.
Yeah, there is a lesson there. There's a lesson in there for me because now, you know what the real lesson, other than holding myself accountable, is I'm playing a 90-second rule in my head at all times. I'm not nowhere near it, so I don't want to lie to people. But the 90-second rule is I'm allowed to be in a negative maybe vibration or be like, oh, whoa, it's me. It didn't work out for 90 seconds. Like, that's it.
Yeah, embrace it, recognize it, and move on.
That's it. And then let it go through, like, you know, I always think about, like, when I'm in the ocean, and not that I'm a swimmer, I'm not like an avid swimmer by any means, but when the wave comes, like I kind of just go with the wave and I go with the flow. I'm going to let 90 seconds happen, deal with it, take it in, see if there's a lesson there or not, boom, go right back into gratefulness. And so that for me was the lesson.
Yeah, I think it speaks for itself there. Absolutely. Let's try a little bit more of a lighter question. After that, I feel like we have had some good serious ones. So if you could go and have dinner with one person, that could be alive, they can be dead, doesn't matter. Who would that be? And what would be the biggest question that you'd want to ask them?
Wow, that's a good one, man. You know, I was really reaching out to Kobe Bryant a lot before he passed away. We never connected, and I know we would have, because anybody I really wanted on the podcast, at some point it's happened, right? And so his death affected me that day, really, like, in a weird way. There were so many emotions around it, like his daughter being in the helicopter with him. And so I think I would go, there's so many people like that came to my head, by the way, brother. But
I had a feeling it was Kobe, though.
Yeah.
I had a feeling it was Kobe.
Yeah, I would pick Kobe. And there's an interview that he did that he spoke about how he really wasn't that good of a basketball player at the age of like 11 or 12. But then what he realized is what he was going to do from 11, 12, so let's just call it from 11 to like 16, that 5-year period. Every summer, he was going to work on a new skill. And that's what he did. And so he became really good with both hands. He became really good at fadeaways. He became really good at passing. He became really good at dribbling, like, and so on, and shooting with both hands as well. And so I think the question I would ask him is to actually, because I know so much about Kobe. I've been following him I followed him since the day he came into the league, right? Like, and he didn't go to college. So he went from high school right to the league. 18 years old, came into the league. He was always my guy. Like, I loved Kobe. I think the question I would ask him is to help, if we were, well, I guess it wouldn't have been a podcast, but I would have wanted to be a podcast. But I would want him to actually detail it more in terms of like, what action steps did you take? Like, you talk to me about the obstacles. Like, that's actually what it would be, Nikki. I want to know more about his failures and his obstacles. Right? Because even with Kobe now, especially after his passing, we're seeing all the positive stuff. right? But there had to have been a lot of negatives and failures, right? Kind of similar questions as you were asking me. So I think I would dive into that and how he got over it. Like Mamba mentality, his thought process around that. I know how he came up with it. I know what he means by it. But give me concrete examples on when you used it. And that would be kind of what I would dive into him.
The application of it all.
Yes.
Yeah. I like that. I think we're almost out of questions here.
Good.
But I had just, I guess a good way to kind of leave it off is like, what advice could you give anybody, doesn't matter what age you are, but somebody who's looking to make that transition that you were kind of talking about before? What's a good piece of advice to kind of get them going in the right direction?
And sorry, the transition that you're talking about,
you know, going from one career to another, changing your lifestyle.
Oh, got it.
Just big changes like that.
And I'm glad what you just said there, Ren, because I was kind of going down that path, but now I know I'm really like it's the right path to go down in terms of the answer, which was like the big changes that you said. I think it's hard for people to make big change. It's just tough. The word, right? Like a big change. And that can be quite overwhelming. And so I think the tactical advice, so not a mindset thing, like very tactical, would be whatever that change that you're wanting to make, that you're thinking about making, is just get your feet wet. So before you jump into the pool, right? Not that everybody does it, but a lot of people, the strategy is just to dip your toe in. How's the water? Is it really cold? Is it warm? Right? I think more people should do that. Meaning, why not reach out to somebody who's in the business, in the industry, in the career that you're wanting to be in? And if we think about it, it could be anything, right? Like if you have a passion for photography or videography or podcasting or real estate sales or business, you want to start selling something, you want to start manufacturing something like a mic or lights, somebody's doing it, and locally they're probably doing it. And if they're not like in your local town or village or wherever you are, then you might have to go out a little bit. But my boy Jas was doing his videography in Ottawa, but then realized, well, like maybe I should get to the big city, Toronto being the big city, and I'm now certain that his aspirations would be like, fuck, I want to get to Hollywood maybe, like, you know what I mean? Like you that happens over time. So dip your toe and make a bunch of outbound emails and phone calls to those people. You're going to have to, like, you know, if you want to learn how to be a videographer, just sticking with this example, look, there's nothing wrong with reaching out to Martin Scorsese and saying if you can intern with him, but you probably won't get a call back right away. I'm just guessing, right? With somebody who reaches out to a lot of people. But there is some other local people. There's other, like, you're going to probably have to reach out to here's the mindset really quickly. Actually, no, it's tactic again. Reach out to as many people until someone says yes.
Absolutely.
That's it. So people are like, how many people should I reach out to? I fucking don't know. As many people say yes. Like, that's what I did when I was a kid, knocking on doors for newspapers. I'm just knocking on doors until people say yes. So when one person said yes, I'm like, okay, back then I think I got like maybe 40 to 50 cents off the sale of a newspaper. Something like that for the week, okay? Because it was like $2 a week or something like that the Toronto Sun got. I was like, okay, I knock on 7 doors, nothing. 8th door says yes, but I'm like, okay, that's not enough money. I'm gonna go do another yes and another, right? So same tactic is don't think that you have to make a big change by making necessarily a big change. You can just get your feet wet, and then you're actually gonna, I think, another reason I really like that is because you're gonna find if you even like it. Right? By just doing it a couple of days a week, you might realize, like, man, I don't really like this thing. And then you're not going to beat yourself up like, oh my God, like I made this huge, massive change. You tried it, you tested it. I use the analogy of the pool. Another analogy is a buffet line, right? You go to the massive buffet line that has 32 items. Well, look, you're probably not going to eat all 32 items 3 times, right? But maybe a good strategy might be on one plate, get just a little bit of 12 of the items, right? See what you like, right? So just testing it out, I think, is the best advice I can give you, and the most tactical advice. And don't worry about when people say no when you reach out. You'll be surprised, pleasantly surprised, that when you reach out to people and say, look, I'm willing to work for free for 4 hours a week, an hour a week, right? Just to, like, I'll get you the coffees, I'll get your printouts, I'll do what, like, I'll make a phone call here and there to set up an appointment, whatever you may need, Mr. or Mrs. And all I'm looking for is maybe hearing some of the conversations that you're having and just watching. 77 people might say no. It's the 78 that says yes. Is that our final question?
I think so. I was just going to add on to there. Big, like, that's a shout out to Laura, if I'm not mistaken, there too, just in terms of how she got into the organization and wanting to move up from real estate agent to VP. It was, how can I get you coffees? How can I help? How can I add value? And it clearly paid off for her.
I mean, just blew up our fucking investment business, right? Like, by her putting up her hands. And there's so many before her that did it, and there's so many who after, and some of them are still with us. And that's a great point, right? Like, where you might reach out and it, like, just, you might have found, and I think that's what I kind of culturally built, which is, I've told people, I told Laura at that time, and I told other people as well, use us as the trampoline. Like, you come on over, test it out. We might, like, be in this together forever and ever. That's awesome. Or just use us as a trampoline to your next spot. And that's okay as well. There's nothing wrong with that. And so I love the added value to you as a viewer and listener. I want to answer more questions. I mean, it's funny because when I do keynotes, my favorite part of it is the Q&A, because I don't have to make anything up. I don't have to, the content is given to me. I'm just answering questions. So I love doing Q&A. If you found this valuable, let me know by telling us in the comments or shooting me a DM. Please tell a friend. Really in the next 12 months with the team, wanting to grow the awareness on specifically the podcast through YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this. And there's no cost for it, obviously. Like, you don't pay to watch this or listen to this, but like they've always said, right, that nothing's really free in life. What I'm asking for is that you just share it with one friend. Just send this episode to one friend or family member or colleague or neighbor that you can think of that might get value from this episode or the other 221 episodes that we've done. Take a look at all of them. I would love to get your feedback, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm a big boy. I can handle the constructive criticism, but please share this. And if you're not subscribed on YouTube or you're not following us on the podcast platform that you're listening on, press that button. It helps the numbers. My mother, my kids, my parents, grandparents love that stuff, and I know the team likes to see that as well. Have yourself an awesome rest of 2023. I love each and every one of you, and I'm very, very grateful for you.